Yes, guys, hope we are well. Joining me today, we're about to set off on the drive to the gym. Her is looking all kinds of funky today, but almost a 2-week hiatus on the YouTube, which I apologise for, but had a bit of a dry spell with the content. That's great, just start blasting my music. We've got Guinnesses by MF Doom playing there. Hopefully this doesn't get copyrighted for that split second. Not that it matters, but yeah, a bit of a dry spell with the content, because I know everyone loves the same YouTube stuff, like just vlogs and full days of eating. Maybe not so much training videos. I know there's the YouTube fitness scene is definitely ran by food focus and fueled by food focus, but like the full days of eating are a bit meh to make, because like I really don't care. Like I'm not as food focused as I once was, so like honing in on the meals isn't as interesting to me, to say the least. But joining me today for an upper session, going to break that down, and then we will probably include some Q&A questions at the end of this, because I did put up a question box on the Instagram and got a few decent ones that I sort of want to run through. So pre-workout routine, we have nailed the pre-meal: chicken, rice, banana, dates, honey. That probably would have been a good one for a full day of eating, because that meal is sensational, and I'll say that even when I'm the least food focused man on the planet. Not that I am right now, but if it ever gets to that stage, that meal will still slap. So pre-workout meal, went for a walk, helped digestion there. Right rear delt L-carnitine shot, 500 milligrams going in pre-workout there. You know it's going to be a good session when you get a good L-carnitine injection. No little bubble underneath the skin of L-carnitine or ball of L-carnitine. No L-carnitine coming out of your shoulder after you inject it. That's always the worst. And no pip. Unreal. Good scenes. We have 18.5 grams of turbo pump, meant to be 15, because that is one serving, and that this is one pre-workout that you really do not need to overdo it with the serving, because it is so efficaciously dosed. But accidentally loaded 18.5 grams, so hopefully we're fully loaded post-workout. And then a white monster for the caffeine of choice. Also did have a nice lovely long black this morning while doing a bit of form feedback. If you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen the photo yesterday. I took the photo yesterday and I had to go back today to get another one, because the crema was just sensational. There's actually no coffee shop I've ever been to like OK Iffy that does the in Tandragee, by the way. Shout out to them that gets their crema so nailed on. So guys, gonna make the trip to the gym, and I will join you back on our first exercise, I guess. So 2 movements deep. You've seen dumbbell lateral up first, warm up the shoulder joint just before going into any pressing, and straight into the primary or first press of the session, the hammer strength overhead press. Very nice piece. Was previously the prime overhead plate loaded in the session. It was just getting too hard to progress with how heavy it got in the stretch, and now it's sitting as the second press and push. I'm feeling a whole lot better. Feels like I've got a huge runway to progress that and run that up, as a lot of people like to coin it, like as if they're not excited to run something up, like every movement up. This specific exercise they're excited to run up. It's one of my biggest gripes in the bodybuilding scene for sure. But next up we have the prime plate loaded pull down. Magnificent piece. The Citadel is a little bit better because it doesn't diverge as much. With our lat pulls, we want to be, especially single arm work, we want to be keeping close to the body, and when a machine's path diverges, that's obviously taking it away from the body, whereas the Citadel doesn't, just come straight down. Might even converge a little bit if anything, but that does make it a slightly bit better piece. But the prime stuff in general, you know, you're not going to get a prime piece that isn't smooth, so you have to weigh up the pros and cons. Also worth noting, intra EAA going in, sipping on my carbs throughout the session. Shout out Morgan Jones if you're watching this, brother. Brought up a little bit of literature to me that mouth sort of washing your carbs can actually improve performance. Now, not that I notice a huge performance improvement with intra anyways, but these little 1% I'll never turn down, trying to maximise my training performance. So sipping that throughout the session instead of just one gulp, which I've always sort of encouraged, but EAA still go down in one sort of 5-minute window, because, you know, while mouthwash and carbs might be beneficial, you know, you're not eating a chicken breast across 2 hours. So 2 hours after my pre-workout meal, probably looking at 2 hours before my post-workout meal when we include posing, I get my intra in. 14 grams of mutant gear EAAs, and that comes out to 4 grams of leucine. That's what you mainly want to look out for in your intra, that your serving size, your full serving, has at least 3 grams of leucine. Oh. 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 I've not spoken to you guys in a little bit of time. What have you seen since the prime pull down? We went into the new MegaMass row, mega piece, pardon the pun. A very, very good piece, feels very smooth, as well as a lovely just sort of plane or path of movement. So that was a quality addition to the dock. So I actually changed this session from from one upper back movement to 2 upper back movements, but just split my volume evenly between the MegaMass and the extreme row. It was 4 sets of extreme row. You can get away with something like that on a prime piece because you can adjust the profile, but sticking the 2 MegaMass up first because it's going to be harder in that contracted, that shortened position, and that's going to diminish your ability to get fully short. Is going to diminish the more fatigue, or just generally the deeper you get into the session. So then we finish off the upper back volume with 2 sets on the extreme row with only 5 kilo in the mid on the top set, and then down to 0 on the back off the subsequent set. Jeez, too warm to be saying those big words, too many syllables. So also seen the prime flat, which moved very nicely today. Did feel a rep on my top set, but it was an extra 1.25 aside. Wanted to make that tiny bit bigger jump than I would normally take on presses, just to reach the 3.5 plates on the top peg, because that looks pretty damn cool. But I was happy to match reps with the extra 1.25 on my third set of that, so it does receive 3 sets as well. As I said earlier, you can get away with stuff like that, 3, 4, 5 sets on prime pieces because you can adjust the profile and gradually bias that length and range. But no, it's been a very good session before. As I said, when you get a good L-carnitine injection, it's going to be a good session, and when you've got 18 grams of turbo pumping, things are going to be good. So gonna crack on with the last set of extreme row isolations, probably pose for you guys, maybe get some of that on camera, but I will be showing you guys the post-workout meal and then cracking on with the Q&A questions that I did get on Instagram.
I really didn't want to feel.
Yes guys, you join me post workout and I'm actually in a t-shirt because it is turning out to be a fucking wonder day, which is lovely to see. Normally never sit in a t-shirt just on its own until I'm extremely heavy, like we're talking in the past, like past 200 pounds. To be fair, I'm like 190 at the minute, on average sort of, but besides the t-shirt dilemma, or I don't know, what would you even call it? I know I'm in a t-shirt, but you join me post-workout for the post-workout meal as well as post-workout supplementation. So tremendous upper session, numbers good, feel brilliant. You know, came off 3 sets of pack fly at the end of the session, and just felt like I was gonna burst. You know, chest was so full. I can pop up some post-workout shots around here, get them going. Didn't take the Osmo into the posing room, or didn't take it out in the posing room, because I do, since I'm self-coaching, I do send myself over my visuals twice a week. Once Saturday morning, fasted shots outdoors, seeing a look at the physique, or getting a look at the physique fasted, and once post-workout, which is upper, which is Friday today, because it is my best visual of the week, getting that chest and back pump and just entire upper body pump. So post-workout supplementation, 1 serving engineered muscle turbo mag. That is 1 of 2 servings of magnesium I take throughout the day. It's the same training day and rest day I take it with. Maybe my second meal on a rest day, post-workout on a training day, and pre-bed with my pre-bed meal on both days, and then 1 cap of Glycotank. Now, been getting a lot of questions. Does Glycotank worth it, or work? Is it worth it? I think it is absolutely a gem to have in your off season, to be honest. Yes, supplementation is a 1% thing, but a glucose disposal agent, like especially a really well dosed one like Glycotank, it has done bits for me. This push up, I'm nearing 500 or nearing 600 grams of carbs, sitting at 580 training days as of today. Did get a little 20 gram carb bump this morning. My blood glucose fasted is still sitting at 4.0, 4.1 every time I take a reading. So I think that is largely down to walking after meals, you know, reducing that blood glucose spike after meals, and the use of Glycotank, as well as just sort of having a whole food approach to my diet and my meal plan, with lots of fruits and veggies and fibre, and fats evenly spread across my meals. But getting into the post-workout meal, we have a little bit different to usual, a little bit different amounts, but the same sort of meal. So we have 40 grams of whey, TWP chocolate coconut, very good whey, 90 grams of maple syrup, Trained by JP cream of rice, 100 blueberries, 100 banana, and 15 dates underneath there. Now, why are the amounts different? I did treat myself, since I'm off work today, did treat myself to some eggs and sourdough this morning, so just had to swap around my meals, reduce carbs in the other 4 of my meals, because usually my meal 1 is protein fat with just a yogurt bowl with a bit of whey and berries, a bit of fats, a bit of dark chocolate. So pulled out carbs from those 4 meals, added them into meal 1 so I could have some nice sourdough bread, and I don't mind it, to be honest. If anything, it's a good thing being able to spread your carbs more evenly throughout the day, to an extent. because it helps with digestion. You know, you're not having these bolus feedings of 150 plus carb meals, which they might sit well, but at some point in your off season they're probably not going to sit well. So the more balanced you can have your carbs, the better. So one last look at the meal. So for you food focused gremlins out there, and I am going to dig in. Looking forward to the last of my Trained by JP maple syrup cream of rice, because it is banging. Yes guys, hope we are well. You're joining me a few days later. I don't actually know where I left you, but it is Sunday now, Sunday afternoon, 3:57 p.m. and gonna get stuck into these Q&A questions. Got actually a few decent ones. I could probably make a few reels out of these, because we all love reels. Hashtag value, hashtag link in bio. But getting straight into things, one of the more educational ones, I say that, you know, they're kind of, they are relatively educational. So we have, I would stick the question box up, the little cutout of who popped up with the question to the question box on Instagram, but it's a way back and I've written them out in my notes, so I'm not going to be doing that. Apologies, but I will type out the question. So kicking things off, what are the signs of overtraining? Now, for me, the most prevalent ones that I would notice with myself or clients is higher sleep latency. So that is the time it takes for you to actually get to sleep when you're in bed. I feel like once fatigue is very high from overtraining or just accumulated fatigue over a mesocycle, I feel like you would imagine it would be the opposite. You would fall asleep straight away, but I think because your body's so sympathetically driven and just sort of in overdrive all the time when you are overreaching, I think sleep latency increases, digestion, appetite definitely take a hit, because again, you're so sympathetically driven that, you know, you're not entering that parasympathetic state, that rest and digest state. I forget the other set. There's rest and digest and breed and feed. There we go, breed and feed. You can remember that one. That's a pretty good one. So appetite, digestion take a hit. Also motivation to train or excitement to train definitely drops off in a lot of people, and that is probably the biggest thing that I notice. You know, us guys, bodybuilding, inside physique development, the realm of physique development, if you will, we're always excited to train, and that's the way you should be to get the most out of your process. I think once you're really overreaching and you acknowledge that you're actually fuckered, you start to sort of imagine how difficult sessions are going to be beforehand, instead of leaning into that difficulty of being, you know, I have a 15 rep leg press later, I cannot be fucked, that's going to be difficult. Whereas at the start of a meso, you're like, fucking bring it on, gonna stick 2.5 kilo aside, maybe add a rep to this. But yeah, your excitement to train dips off, and your want to train definitely dips off. So I think that one is covered quite well. They are probably the biggest 4 signs. Also things like joints taking a hit. Yes, joint issues can be caused by movement selection, but I also think overtraining and overreaching can be a big detriment to your joint health. Next good one, this was from Mr. Matt Egerton, so thank you for the question. This is actually one of my preferred questions out of the few that I got. Biggest takeaway of self-coaching this push-up. Now, if you guys don't follow along much of my process, I have had 2 coaches in the past for a combined total of 6 months. I work with both of them for 12 weeks each, and I have most of my bodybuilding I have self-coached. So this push-up specifically, I self-coached all of my last push-up really bar 12 weeks, and last push-up was a case of getting strong and eating my food, recovering, and just going balls to the wall in the gym. Some of my favourite sessions, some of my most enjoyable training was when I was over 200 pounds, you know, even above 205, 210, and I could do anything in the gym. You know, I didn't have huge legs, but I was loading up 11 plates on the Cyback squat press and sending a 6-rep set with good execution. I was stiff leg deadlifting over 5 plates on a stiff bar at the end of a leg session. I hit a 4-plate Cybex hack. I dumbbell RDL'd the 100 kilo dumbbells. Now upper body training definitely wasn't as strong, but I done some pretty wacky things that I definitely couldn't imagine myself at the start of that push-up achieving. So last push-up was really just getting strong and enjoying the process for what it was, but this push-up has been a lot more meticulous, I will say, from a sort of execution standpoint. And I think the biggest takeaway is, and I hope most of the industry is sort of leaning towards this new approach to an off-season, that body weight is not the biggest dictator of an off-season, or it shouldn't be the driving factor behind decision making in a gaining phase. I think people care too much about the rate of gains in an off-season, and obviously I've heard this from coaches above me, and as I'm the same with training frequency and stuff, I've heard that from people smarter than me, and I've adapted that and took that into my stride and sort of made it my own and approached it the same way. So there is application for body weight tracking. I would never do a push-up without tracking body weight. Now the reason being, I think that if you are gaining an extreme amount of weight per week, even if the visuals are staying the same, which is the overarching theme of why I'm saying body weight is not the driving factor of visuals, because you can gain 2 pounds a week, which is higher than your maybe estimated 1% or 0.5% of body weight rate of gain per week in your push-up. You could gain above that, which in theory would lead to a shorter runway of progression of body weight or body composition in the push-up. But if you're gaining above that rate of gain, but the visuals are improving, you can absolutely push past that. You can keep doing that, but to an extent, especially as a natural bodybuilder or a natural guy, maybe bodybuilding isn't your aim. To an extent, you can maybe gain 2 pounds a week for a little while. You can only do that for a little while before you start to notice downsides to that. It will catch up with you running that extreme rate of gain, which is why I like to keep an eye on body weight. But with my clients, I'm checking the visuals. Same with my own process. I still send myself 2 batches of check-in shots per week, post-upper. I think I did mention this earlier in the video. Post-upper and fasted on a Saturday morning. I assess the visuals first, then I go on to read their check-in for the week, their summary of the week, then I read their data on the Google Sheets, and I think that's the order you should be doing. You should be making decisions based on the visual and let the data back up your decisions. Your decisions should almost be made up by watching the visuals, keeping an eye on the visuals. Once you've assessed those, you basically should know what needs to happen. You know, are you seeing the physique soften up in an athlete? Are you seeing them get sharper? And then you go and check body weight, and they've actually gained 2 pounds, and you're like, fuck me, this is brilliant. You're sharper, 2 pounds heavier. That means muscle gain, so I'm going to keep pushing you. I'm not going to pull back your rate of gain, because I'm not going to pull back on food because your rate of gain is too fast than what we have timelined out. That is another thing. Not a huge fan of timelines. I think, you know, if you're inquiring with a coach and they're giving you a timeline for the next year, week by week, on what your rate of gain is going to be and how you're going to stick to phases, when you're going to diet, when you're going to gain, when you're going to hold, that is a selling tactic. They want you to think that they've got everything solved out. You cannot take a timeline as gospel. So that is my biggest takeaway of this push-up, that you shouldn't let body weight be the driving factor or the main factor in decision making in your push-up. A little bit of a quicker one, this one, which is a very good question. I'm actually not rocking any of the merch. I typically am, but the question is dream sponsor. And I think if you guys follow me on Instagram, maybe even YouTube, I plugged their subs earlier, but it is engineered muscle, 100%. I think having confidence in the owner or manufacturer or sort of creator of a brand or a product is so valuable, and I have full confidence in Riz that the panels he makes are top tier and they are the best in the UK. I've also seen it with stuff like Glycotank and Turbo Dreams that they do what they said they're going to do. Glycotank, glucose disposal agent. Look at my blood glucose this off season. I'm nearly 20 pounds up from my lowest, and I still sit at 4 to 4.2 fasted blood glucose when I do take it. So Engineered Muscle, dream sponsor. I think they are the best in the game. Not only do I love their clothing, I've got I'm giving an absolute rim job to Riz here, but he's not going to see it, so he's not going to feel all warm inside. Yeah, love the clothing, but the supplements, top tier. I think they are the best in the UK, and that's why I've majorly shifted my choice of brands and supplements to Engineered. You know, creatine, glutamine, Glycotank, magnesium, Turbo Dreams, L-carnitine I get from them. What other stuff do we have? I don't know. There's so much. Glycine. There's so much. I think they are really becoming a one-stop shop, and a one-stop shop for the best stuff on the market at that. That's also where I push clients in the direction of when I want them to get a certain supplement. Now, how to approach bad digestion, assuming diet is on point, stress levels and steps are both managed. So what you've listed now are probably the three biggest things that you need to assess when digestion is poor. Are your food sources right, or is your diet clean in general? Because a lot of people will still be eating processed shit, protein pancakes, cereal, whatever, and maybe be confused why their digestion is bad. Stress around meals. You know, I talked about the parasympathetic state for rest and digest, breathe and feed. I talked about that earlier. Need to be parasympathetic to be digesting your meals best. If you're sympathetically driven, you know, you're fucking wired with a high heart rate, you're not going to digest your food as well as if you were, you know, heart rate sub 60 BPM, chilling out in the evening with your final meal with your blue light blockers on. That is a given. And then steps. I think you can have good digestion without necessarily nailing steps around every meal, but it's definitely something that's going to improve your digestion. Just that sort of stimulation of I believe it is just the intestinal muscles. Everyone always says steps are good for digestion, but it isn't a bulletproof reason why. It is just sort of stimulating the muscles in the gut or the stomach that helps it. So if you have those three nailed down, I think you can say they're nailed down, but are they actually nailed down? They're the biggest three things. So if they really are nailed down and you've double checked and you are 100% truthful to yourself that they are being nailed every time you're eating a meal, I think you need to assess food sources. Before supplementation, diet might be on point with whole food sources, but there is trouble foods in every sort of meal plan. Just because it's a whole food doesn't mean it's going to digest well for you. Oats are suspect number one when it comes to bad digestion. A lot of people cannot hack oats. It sends their stomach up the wall. But you'd imagine, you know, oats, whole food, single ingredient food, it's going to digest well. No, your body is going to develop intolerances and just generally not get on with certain foods. A lot of people are the same with chicken, with poultry in general, chicken or turkey. They can't digest it, and since it's so plain and so common in bodybuilding diets, they're like, it can't be that causing the digestive stress. So they just keep it in. But you need to sort of start looking at or just feeling out how your stomach feels after every meal if your digestion is bad. And if it's particularly bad after a certain meal, look at the food sources in that meal. Are those food sources in any other meals? If there is one that is only in that meal causing the really bad digestion, take it out. You have to make changes to the diet one by one. If you pull out two sources or make two changes or change too many variables at once, you can't actually assess that. If I was to be assessing a client's digestion, I would be pulling one thing out at a time. So, it might be chicken. You know, we've maybe got a hint that it could be chicken. I'm going to pull chicken out. I'm not going to pull chicken, beef and pull their seasoning down at the same time, or I'm not going to add something in, take something out at the same time. You need to do these things one by one so you can actually assess change and point the finger, exactly put your finger on what was causing that. You make 3 changes at once, great, there's an improvement, but now you don't know which other of the other 2 variables to put back in. Excuse my burp. And the final little question for this Q&A, we have gym gripes. Now, if you've listened to the Lifestyle Loops podcast, we have calmed down on this topic recently, but we were definitely known for the gym gripes at a stage. And a few that come to mind with the demographic of the gym doc, the mecca of bodybuilding. You know, great gym, great kit, but the atmosphere is not amazing at the minute. It's not a superb environment if you go at the wrong time. So training in school uniform, I'm all for going to the gym straight after school. They're some of my best memories when I first started training, and I would walk from school straight to the gym. But mate, bring a change of clothes. Stop training in your school uniform. I don't know why. All these gripes, by the way, let me disclaim or preface, they shouldn't affect me. I shouldn't care what other people are doing, but the gripes are just little things that don't rub you right in the head. So yeah, training in school uniform, eating during your session, squares bars during your session, protein bars during your session, sends me up the wall. And I don't want to drag this one out too much because it's very negative, but the third and final one, playing Clash Royale, Clash of Clans, or scrolling TikTok or Reels between sets while sitting on the piece of kit. Oh my god. Chess is another one as well. Now, it's better than Clash Royale because you're being an intellectual, but I was waiting on the prime low row, I believe it was. It was some piece of kit and a kid was playing a game of chess. I'm like, come on, man. At least it better have been fucking Blitz or something, and it was like a minute match. But yeah, playing games, Clash Royale is a bad one because, you know, if you hit overtime and you drag overtime, maybe you're playing log bait and you know you don't have a superb win condition, you drag that overtime right to the end. There's 5-6 minutes before you're doing your next set. So that is a piss take. A little bit of the Clash Royale ball knowledge drop there. I'm elite at Clash Royale for anyone that wants to know. But gonna leave the video there, guys. If you did make it this far, I appreciate you watching. As always, any likes, tags, story tags, comments, shares, whatever, are all very much appreciated. You actually don't know how much it means. When I see a story tag, it's still pretty surreal, even with the Lifestyle Loops podcast, when someone shares listening to the podcast, because all 3 of us have agreed, it's like, why do people listen to us? Like, we're just chatting. And it's the same with these YouTube videos. I'm just chatting, you know, bringing you through my day, and it's like people are actually interested in this. It's a very surreal feeling. And when I look at the views of the videos compiling over since I started the channel, it is pretty ridiculous. So I really do appreciate it, even if you're not interacting with tags or whatever, even watching the video. Thank you very much. So guys, that is episode, I'm not sure, it might be 20 of Grow Bag, maybe 21, maybe I'm a little behind Lifestyle Loops, maybe 19, but I know they're sort of neck and neck. So we'll catch you guys in the next video and talk to you guys soon.